Well, hello again everybody, and having gone to the time and trouble of purchasing that oil suction pump, I've actually decided to remove the back cover of this differential after all, for the simple reason that you know, I haven't done it before, and I guess any vehicle that you don't know the provenance of, you really should check things out. So you know, in some ways, against my better judgment, we're gonna take this off, and we're going to look inside and I guess maybe see if there is 70 years worth of accumulated filth in there. Unfortunately, I haven't got a gasket to put back on here, so I'm going to use some of that instant gasket. I'm just cracking these bolts off because I just want to make sure that they will come out. I'm going to use electric impact gun to actually get them out, but we just want to make sure that there's none of them you know, shearing off, stuck. So it looks like the only one we're going to just struggle to get at is that one, because it's got a bloody clip in the way. Very fine threads on those. Okay, so we're just releasing the smooth there. What I think we'll do now is we'll just leave that to drain out for a little while, and then we're going to just give this a tap, and hopefully the whole back cover will release. So while that's draining, I'm going to go and find something to give this a tap with. Well, you know, I'm not exactly sure how much oil this holds, so I think when we've drained it, we might just have to pour it into a measuring jug. For some reason, I had 6 litres in my head, but certainly doesn't look like we're getting anywhere near 6 litres in there at the moment. This oil that's coming out does look pretty black, and when I was changing those seals in the wheel hubs, the oil that I got on my fingers, it just had that really kind of horrible, well, it smelt like gear oil, which is always very sulphurous, but it kind of really did stink. So maybe the oil in here has never been changed. I don't know, maybe it's just been refilled. It's a bit of a mystery, isn't it, when you buy any vehicle. So this vehicle's a 1953, so I think it's interesting to think that probably many of the people that drove this were probably almost freshly back from the Second World War, ended 1945, so 53, that's just 8 years later. So yeah, some of the people probably got out of tanks and got into the driving seat of a Chevy truck. It makes you think, doesn't it? Getting a little bit bored actually. Do you think we should just crack it off and let the smooth flow? Got to do it sooner or later, haven't we? Ooh, that's much more satisfying. I don't know why, it just is. I think, is that an old cork gasket? It might be. I think it might just be metal actually. It might not even have a gasket on it. Is that a gasket? Oh yeah, it has got something on there. It doesn't look like there's anywhere near as much oil in here as I thought there was. There's much less. I bet you're dying to have a look inside, aren't you? Well, that's lovely and clean. Could eat your dinner off that, couldn't you? Lovely. So let's have a quick look at the diff. Well, you know, I'm no expert on differentials, but I can't see anything obviously bad. I mean, I'm not going to start checking for free play and rocking things. I'm not, you know, I'm not going to do all that lot, but looking at it I can't see any broken teeth or anything like that. Can't see any obvious damage. There must be like almost like an inch of mud at the bottom of this, horrible congealed, I don't know, dirt and oil. It's there's not a lot of room to work in here, there really isn't. Can't feel any big lumps of metal or anything like that, so I guess that's a good sign. But there is a very thick build-up of nasties in here. This isn't a very nice job at all. But I don't know, somehow, I'd say it's not a nice job, somehow there's something strangely pleasing about it. I'll leave it up to your imagination to think what that might be. I'm not sure I know myself, in honesty, but yeah. In fact, there's actually so much stuff in here, I don't think it would actually be possible to, to get it out without, stripping out the diff and the half shafts. To actually clean this out properly, yeah, for sure the whole diff would have to come out. And I've got to admit, I don't want to do that today. This is one of those jobs which was just meant to be a simple job, and before you know it, we'll be going into this more deeper than I want to at the moment. So let's just get out what we can. Now, of course, one of the concerns is there is so much rubbish in here that I can feel like a thick layer. The concern is that we're actually just disturbing stuff, so when the actual diff starts running, all the crud that is at the bottom of here is just going to get redistributed around, and that's a little bit of a concern to me. But again, I can only do what I can do, can't I? Right, okay, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start putting rags in here now and just trying to mop it out. I don't know how well that'll go. And then I'm going to maybe put some paraffin, do you call it kerosene in the States? I'm going to try and put some kerosene in the bottom of it and just try and spray some inside it and just rinse it out as best we can. That's all we can do at the end of the day. This is quite a tedious job to do when you're lied upside down under a vehicle. It's important to get all the old gasket off though, or it's not going to seal properly. Lots of huffing and puffing and old man noises, I'm afraid. Are we having fun yet? No. Definitely not. Now, of course, the perfect job for this would actually be a funnel, but unfortunately I can't find any funnels, so this could go just really horribly wrong, couldn't it? Well, there's no lumps of metal in there that I can see. It is pretty nasty and horrible, but and it is full of, kind of muddy crud deposit. That'll be dust that's been sucked in off the road through the breather and stuff like that. Gets sucked in and then it gets mixed into the oil and then it kind of congeals. So it's it's not very nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this container back under the diff now, and I'm going to try and flush it out with some clean paraffin, because I'm sure there is lots of little bits of stuff still in there, and I'm not going to get it all out. All I can do is my best, that's it. We can just do our best, we can't do any more than that. So I think that might be a bit messy as well. Well, hopefully you can see inside there, and I think this is about as clean as I can get it. So we did get all the old oil out, and you know, we've cleaned out the old smooth as best we can, and then I've just rinsed it out with paraffin, and then I've dried it off inside with some rags. So that's as clean as we're going to get it today. I've done my best, and hopefully it will be better than it was. So what we're going to do now is reassemble it and fill it with oil. Well, I'm using some of this Loctite 5922, and it shows a picture of it being used on an engine sump. So I'm guessing this is going to be good enough. The main reason I'm using it is because it's what I happen to have in my cupboard. I don't know about you, but I'm never exactly sure how much of this instant gasket to use. Am I putting too much on, not enough? I mean, the original gasket was a cork gasket, so it would have had a fair, you know, a fair gap filling capability. It would have been quite a thick cork gasket, and you know, I'm never quite sure how much of this stuff to put on. I could be putting not enough on, or I could be putting you know, 10 times more than I actually need to. Well, I guess, I don't know, it's probably an experience thing, isn't it? I don't do this every day. In fact, I've never done this on this truck before, so I guess we'll just have to suck it and see. If not enough on, and it might leak. Too much on, and it's just going to probably, you know, squirt out everywhere. You know, it's the Goldilocks amount is what we're looking at, just right. I've got a feeling I might actually be putting too much on here. Now it says that this stuff is non-hardening, but I don't know if it, you know, if it does dry or flash off the solvent at all. I'm tempted just to leave it for you know, 10 minutes or so, just to see if it does go a little bit harder. As much as anything, because I don't want it all to squidge out when we tighten these bolts up. We want, you know, we want some to stay on there. But yeah, we'll suck it and see, won't we? Now we've got all the bolts here that were securing the cover plate on the diff, and might as well just give these a little bit of a clean, mightn't we? And for what it's worth, when we do the reassembly, I think I'll put a little bit of that gasket sealer on them. I can't see the oil leaking through there particularly because it's such a fine thread, but it could do. Well, I was just about to go ahead and reassemble this, and then I noticed that some of these bolts that hold the back cover on, they've got some damage to the threads on them. They're not all damaged, just some of them are. I'm not sure why. So I just thought before I put them back, I'll run them up and down this dye nut. Now, unfortunately, having just washed them, I'm going to have to wash them again, aren't I? Because I can't put them on with swarf on, so we're going to have to clean them again. But I think it's probably just as well to clean the threads up. Unfortunately, this tap and die set I've got, it's not a particularly good one. It's a cheap one. I think it's just carbon steel, so it's not really very good for cutting new threads. But you can kind of get away with it just for cleaning stuff up, which is what I'm doing. Well, the other thing that I've done is I just went and I found a couple of old bolts, and I've cut the heads off them and just put a little bit of a taper on them, smoothed them off. But what I'm going to do with these, I'm going to screw them into the back of the diff carry, the back of the axle. And what these are going to be used for, they're going to align that back plate that we've removed, because it's going to be a little bit difficult, because all that back cover's covered in grease, and sorry, not grease, covered in sealant. It's going to be difficult to align it and, you know, not catch an edge and wipe the seal off, or, you know, try and hold it while we then screw these little bolts in. So the thing to do is we're going to screw these in first into the axle, and then we can just basically push the cover onto these two studs, and it'll stay there while we put the rest of the bolts in, and then we'll just take them out and put the normal bolts in. Hopefully you can see. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put them couple of studs in that I mentioned. So screw them in finger tight. There's one, and put the one there. Now I'm hoping that will work, but I'm thinking about it, maybe this pipe is going to get in the way, which will be annoying. when I install these bolts, I'm just going to put a little bit of sealant on the threads. Well, it says this sealant is a non-hardening, so it shouldn't stop them coming out in the future with a bit of luck. I'm hoping that sealant we've put on, I'm hoping it's a thick enough layer, and it's going to have as much filling capacity as the old cork gasket did. Don't know whether it will or not, but only one way to find out. This job will either work or it'll leak, won't it? It'll be one or the other. Now, I did read the instructions for actually filling the diff, and it said that if the vehicle isn't at operating temperature, then what you need to do is you need to leave about ½ an inch from the top. So normally I'd just fill these things to the top and wait for the oil to dribble out, but yeah, according to the instructions, we don't want to put quite that much in. Oops, oh, it's going everywhere. I'm making a cock of that, aren't I? Well, I don't think this bottle's very well designed. Certainly the filling cap, the filling point is it's just far too small. This is going to take me hours. Well, I've been at that some time, and I think we've probably got about half that in there. That says it's 5 litres, so I think we've probably got I don't know, about half that, 2.5 litres maybe. Not exactly sure. Looks about half full when you look into the tin. So now what we've got to do is we've got to pump the little wanking handle here vigorously. Make sure we turn that off first. I wonder which is off. I don't know which is off. I reckon that's off, isn't it? So we pump the little wanking handle. Look, the smooth is coming. I'll turn that up. A bit more pumping, I think. Yeah, it's got a little red thing here. We want it in the red, don't we? There we go, in the red. Good. So in theory, this is going to be very easy. We just put that in there like that. We turn the little thing, and the smooth will flow from there into there, and well, it'll probably just pour out of a hole in the bottom and go onto the floor, won't it? But maybe we'll get lucky. Got to have some luck sometime, haven't you? You can see little air bubbles coming up here, and certainly it is easier than you know, lying under the car with a squeezy bottle trying to squeeze it in, because I said the other day, usually when you do that, all the oil just ends up running down your arms, doesn't it, into your armpits. So at least it's easier than that. Still can't feel any oil, so we could be some considerable time here. Trying to work out. Oh yeah, there is some oil there now. It's still got. I think we've still got a little way to go. It's doing something. Maybe a little bit more. It says, I think it says leave it about ½ an inch from the top. I reckon that's between an inch and ½ an inch. So maybe just give it a few seconds more. But I suspect, you know, as long as the bottom of the crown and the diff, as long as it's covered with oil, it's going to distribute it everywhere, isn't it? So probably more of a problem if we overfill it, because we don't want it blowing out through the new oil seals we've put in. Well, I noticed we have got a breather here, and you always want to know that your breathers are in good condition, because that is one of the main reasons that you get oil seals leaking. It's not really that the oil seals are worn out, it's that this breather can get blocked up, and if this breather does get blocked up, the heat of the oil expanding and the high temperature, the air pressure, it will actually force the oil out through the seals. Yeah, so I'm happy with that. That's full enough now. So here's a final little job. Well, annoyingly, I've come back to this about half an hour later, and unfortunately we've got leaks, and I think that this sealer that I've used hasn't really worked. It is fresh, clean oil. This, it's just almost feels like the oil is kind of well, it does seem to be dissolving the sealer that I'm using. So yeah, that looks like that one has been a bit of a fail. So unfortunately we're going to have to drain it down again and have another go, maybe with a different sealer, or order a cork gasket. So Yeah, that's annoying. That's been a little bit of a fail. I think I'll order some different instant gasket material. I think this one that said non-hardening, I think that was maybe a mistake, but it's what I had in stock, so that's what I've used. So I'm afraid it's back to the drawing board. We're going to have to drain it down again and have another go. Unfortunately, the sealant didn't seem to work. In fact, the gear oil just seemed to eat its way through, and it just started leaking almost immediately. So yeah, unfortunately that was a fail. So we've stripped it all down, taken it apart, and I've got some different material to use, some different sealant. Now this one's described as a silicon gasket maker, and it's an RTV product, so it's kind of a silicon sealer, and it shows it here being used on oil pans and stuff like that, and it says that it's good for things like gearboxes and sealing transmissions. So this is what we're going to use, and hopefully we'll do a little bit better. Well, I think I might have overdone it a little bit with a sealer, but yeah, it's done now. So I've left this for about an hour, and it's just formed a bit of a skin over the surface of it. So I'm going to reassemble it now. Well, I've gone ahead and I've resealed it with the RTV, and I don't know if I put just the right amount on or a little bit too much, but it's just flowing out a little bit around the edges. And the method that I employed was I put a bead around it, I left it 20 minutes to form a skin, then I assembled it. I assembled it kind of finger tight, left it for a couple of hours to go off a little bit like that, and then finally I came back with the ratchet. And I'm not sure what the torque settings is for these bolts. They're a very fine thread. The idea is a fine thread pulls very tight, but I'm always cautious about stripping the threads. So what I do is I just put the ratchet on and kind of holding the head of the ratchet where the where the direction thing is to change its direction. All I did was I just held the head of the ratchet and I just did it like that. I didn't pull on the lever. I just nipped it up tight. I went cross-cornered from one side to the other and tried to pull it all in evenly. And now I'm going to just leave this now for maybe 24 hours or more. Well, here we go again. I filled half the differential up with oil yesterday and left it overnight, and just had a look this morning for any leaks, and there doesn't seem to be any. So I think this time with the RTV we have got a good seal. We're certainly doing better than we were the other day. So I'm going to fill it up with oil now the rest of the way, and put the drain plug in, or the filler plug, and hopefully call it done. So yeah, that was all much more painful than I hoped it would be, but we got there in the end. Well, our pressurised oil filling tank does seem to do quite a good job. It does take the mess out of it, although it is perhaps a little bit slow. But if you know how much oil you've got to put in, you can basically just stick it in and leave it running, which yeah, it does make it easy. It does take all the mess out of it, so it is quite a good thing. It's just a shame that it doesn't hold more oil. So until next time, and fingers crossed, that'll do. Bye bye for now.